Hi, and welcome to another episode of Technically Speaking. Today, we're taking a look at how our chassis dyno works and how to use it. So there are a few main types of dynamometers: an engine dyno, a hub dyno, and a chassis dyno. Each have got their benefits and their drawbacks. An engine dyno is great for getting very consistent results in very consistent conditions. Your engine would be removed from the car or put straight on the engine dyno after being built and connected directly to the dyno load cell with no gearbox. The engine dyno's water cooling supply, fuel system, and sometimes ignition system would be connected to the engine and it'd be ready to start and ready to tune. But this is often very time consuming and better suited for engine development programs or an engine that would be modified over several weeks or several months. A chassis dyno, where a car's driven straight off the street, strapped down to the rollers, and we're ready to tune. This is certainly the fastest way to get tuning, but it does have its drawbacks. The idea is that the car is strapped into the rollers using a method where the harder the car wants to pull forward, the more the downwards force increases, resulting in the car pulling harder down into the rollers. This works really well and provides consistent results up to a point. Then you end up fighting the traction limit of the actual tyre. This normally happens around 800 to 1000 horsepower, depending on the particular situation. The chassis dyno is ideal for getting cars up to around 800 horsepower on and off quickly, easily, minimum setup time. Then we've got the hub dyno, which is bolted directly to the vehicle's drive hubs, eliminating the wheels and tyres altogether. This is a great solution for high-powered race and street cars and a great in-the-middle solution between a chassis dyno and an engine dyno. You can have accurate, repeatable results in cars that are making well north of 2000 horsepower, or you can fine-tune a 400 horsepower street car. The downside is there's a little more setup than the chassis dyno, and each vehicle stud pattern may need a different bolt adapter to get on the dyno, but it's just the same as not all wheels will fit on all cars. Regardless of the dyno style, we need to know what a dyno actually does. It needs to control the rate at which the retarder shaft spins, and it needs to measure the load at the retarder arm from a load cell found mounted between the retarder and the dyno chassis. Notice this mechanical connection's the only thing stopping the retarder from pivoting forward, and the only thing that's measuring how hard the retarder is being forced against the dyno chassis. In order to control the rate of acceleration of the roller, or to hold a particular roller speed, there is an eddy current retarder attached to the end of the common shaft that the car's sitting on. So this is what we're talking about. If I open the retarder cover here, we've got our eddy current retarder sitting right here. This is a thing that does all of the work. So we've got, this is an electrical brake. This is attached to a common shaft that goes the whole way through our front or our grip rollers. These are the ones that are knurled so you get the best traction for your rubber tyre. The back rollers here are both free spinning. They're not retarded or braked. They're simply there just to roll along. All the work gets done off the front or the driven roller. If we move across the retarder, we can see the retarder is attached to a huge solid bracket, which is then attached to this load cell. This is a thing that is measuring the effort that's getting applied to that front roller. The result of this effort is heat, which the retarder disperses with its own internal fan-like design in order to keep the retarder core temperature to a minimum. Now, because we know the roller speed and we know the force being applied to the load cell, we can calculate the amount of horsepower being generated using a fancy formula, which is torque in pound-foot times RPM divided by 5252 equals horsepower. Now keep in mind there is a bit going on here to compensate for temperatures, the moment arm lengths of the mechanical connections and atmospheric conditions. So what does it all mean? On our chassis dyno, it means I can hold a car at any consistent road speed and any engine load in order to measure the power output and adjust the engine management system until the engine is making the most power possible at that point. This is known as steady state tuning. It also means I can do a ramp test, allowing the engine to go from 2000 RPM to 7000 RPM over, say, 15 seconds. essentially choosing how many meters or feet per second the dyno will allow the engine to accelerate at. This is known as a power run. So what's tuning? Adjusting the engine management parameters at all load and RPM sites in order to make the most power at each RPM and each engine load. So let's get a car onto this thing and see how we actually use it. Okay, so let's knock it into gear. We're going to cruise up through second, through third. We're going to end up around fourth gear with a gear ratio or a final drive of around 1:1. And here we go. We've got our dyno roller speed locked at 60 kilometers an hour. So, as I apply more and more throttle, so I'm pressing the throttle pedal in the car down now, 16, 18, 20, we can see that our torque at the rear wheels is going up and our power in kilowatts, bottom left-hand corner, is also going up. But our RPM in the car is remaining the same. So if I go more and more and more throttle, same road speed. So essentially I'm driving up a hill, but I'm stuck at 60 kilometers an hour. I can't go any better. Okay, so right now we're at 2000 RPM and we're at 0 manifold pressure. We're not in vacuum and we're not in boost pressure. Our air fuel ratio is around 13.8 to 1. Our throttle position to hold here at 55 kilowatts at the wheels is 28%. Now, if I press my foot down a little bit more, we now have a boost pressure of 4 psi, but the same engine RPM. We've moved into a different load cell, meaning that now I can tune this site here and tune my fuel, my ignition timing, and my boost pressure at this site. If I come off the throttle and reduce the throttle position, same engine RPM, but now I'm in vacuum, so now I can come across and tune this load site. So essentially, I would want to go through and tune all of my load sites at 2000 RPM, or as many as I can get to. Then, once I've done that, I'm going to let more speed out on the dyno. So I'm going to increase the dyno speed. My RPM will go up because I'm allowing more roller speed. My next load site, 2250 RPM. There we go. I'm now at 2250 RPM. I'm at the next load site up. I can go through and I can see my mixtures. I can see my ignition timing. I can see what my short-term O2 corrections are doing. More throttle position, up, 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 up. Less throttle position, down, down, down. More and less. If I let out more RPM, I can put the trace on here in the Haltech software. So I'm just going to let more and more, and I'll let the dyno come up to now 125 kilometers an hour. And now I'm up at nearly 3,500 RPM. I'm going to leave the same throttle position, but I'm going to bring the dyno speed down and down and down. So let me bring the, oh, you can hear it dragging us down. Same throttle position, or I'm trying. Up and up and up. So now I'm stuck or locked at 2250 again. So after we've steady state tuned as many load sites as we can, we then move into our power runs. These are the ones everyone talks about. These are the ones that make the full noise. They give us the big number at the end. So we set the dyno up as a start speed and a finish speed. So at the moment, for example, we've got our start speed at 50 kilometers an hour. So we would go into fourth gear, or the gear that's around 1:1, 50 kilometers an hour, full throttle. We let the dyno start releasing road at the moment, 15 kilometers per hour per second, until we get to 205 kilometers an hour, which in the case of the dyno will actually retard us there in case of any emergency or problem, and it will bring the car back down by itself. Or you can come off the throttle and gently brake to bring us back down to an idle speed. This will then plot out the power at the wheels versus engine RPM. So over here in the top left, we've got power in kilowatts versus roller speed along the bottom and the corresponding engine RPM at that roller speed. We've got two power graphs shown here. So this is during the tuning process. So if I click along here, I can see that on one power run, I was making 144 kilowatts at 2,895 RPM. But on the second run, I was making 159 kilowatts, nearly 15 kilowatts more. This was due to the ignition timing change that got made between these two runs. In the next graph below here, we've got our corresponding air to fuel ratios. So the blue run, the slightly higher power run, the same air fuel ratio graph with the blue. The lower value with the red to show us our air fuel ratios. And then if we flick across to the right-hand screen here, we've got our torque rear foot-pounds. So our foot-pounds of torque at the rear tyre that's getting measured by the dyno. It made more torque, resulting in more power as it came on. From there on, you'll be doing power runs. You'll be adjusting your fueling and your ignition timing for your specific boost level to make the most power. Once you're happy there, you'd add more boost pressure. You'd then adjust your fueling and your ignition timing until you're making the most power at that boost level, and so on and so on and so on until you run out of something. And that is how the car gets tuned on the dyno. So it's been a little bit of a technical one, but thanks very much for sticking with us till the end. My name's Scott, and I'll see you next time.